Good morning, Warriors. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. It is time to wake up the warrior. I am excited because today is all about finding a new strength. If you're a high level thinker, that should already get you excited. Imagine adding a new strength to your toolbox. But here's the kicker. You're going to be surprised what it is and where it comes from. So, as we lead in, let's start here. There's a part of you that won't cooperate with you. You've tried to fix it, outrun it, silence it, but it hasn't left and it's not going anywhere. And it's not because it's a broken part of you, but because it's waiting for you to catch up with it. Follow me on this, because most people never figure this out. They spend their lives treating symptoms of challenges while avoiding the source that keeps dragging them down. If you have negative patterns that are running you frequently, which is most of us, by the way, myself included, watching till the end today isn't optional. So stick with me. So let me show you, before I introduce today's topic, let me show you how this plays out in real life to give you an example. There is this thing circling around you. It's the one that you avoid naming, and it shows up everywhere in your life. In your marriage, it shows up as confrontation that you avoid, or arguments that you escalate too fast. In your friendships, it shows up as distance, resentment, or maybe saying, I'm fine, when you're actually not. In your relationship with your kids or your grandchildren, it shows up as impatience, inconsistency, or checking out when presence is required. At work, it could show up as procrastination, overworking, or never quite finishing what you start. In your business, it shows up as hesitation to scale, fear of delegation, or staying busy instead of building. In how you manage your money, it shows up as avoidance, impulse, or never quite feeling in control. In your diet and your nutrition, it shows up as discipline that fades under stress or pressure in some cases. In your workouts, it shows up as intensity without consistency, or follow me, consistency without intention. The people that show up to the gym and you know they have no plan because they're just wandering, pushing weights around. Now, look, these patterns in all these situations have similarity. They're just in different environments. So in the past, you've blamed discipline, motivation, timing. So you now realize blame doesn't fix negative life patterns, because patterns don't break through giving more effort. Patterns break through understanding and applying the right tools. Most of you haven't avoided this weakness because you're weak. This is really important to understand. You've avoided it because it feels hard. It's not easy. Confronting it would require self-assessment and honesty, structure, ownership of the situation, not blame. So if you've looked to work around it instead, because what else would you do if you don't have the right tool? Then you're in the right place today, because I'm going to give you that tool. But what if I told you fixing it was never hard? It's just unfamiliar until now. Your main weakness, your main weakness that cripples aspects of your life is not something to escape, but it is, make no mistake, inescapable. But what if I told you instead, it's something that you can shape? Let me say that again. Your main weakness is not something that should cripple you, but something that you can reshape and turn into energy that is useful to you. But this is where doing nothing quietly costs you. You never confront the source. You learn to live around it. So you build systems to compensate, rules to contain it, excuses to normalize it. From the outside, people might think it looks functional. From the inside, you feel capped. You're not failing, not winning, just never fully arriving. And over time, that ceiling starts to feel like a false, weak personal identity. It shapes who you are at your core. And you start to say things like, that's just who I am. Or I am my biggest weakness. In other words, you internalize it where your biggest weakness, like a procrastinator, you've created an identity that says, I am a procrastinator. Guys, this should scare the heck out of you. That's a huge mistake in how a false identity is built and carried over long periods of time, by the way. You could be procrastinating since you're 5 years old, and you're still carrying that at 40 years old. See, the real problem is most people think the problem is the trait, but it's not. The problem is that they're not in charge of it. So this is the moment that matters. The question of the day. Don't rush it. Certainly don't soften it. It's time to confront it. What is your biggest weakness that if you could discipline instead of avoid, you could turn it into a superpower? If you can't imagine turning it into a superpower yet, don't worry. You're not supposed to understand that part yet. Just answer the first part of the question. What is your biggest weakness? You'll understand the rest in a few minutes as we go. But let me ask that question a little bit differently. What is the one weakness you've spent most of your life managing, avoiding, or apologizing for? Now understand, the goal of this weakness is not to eliminate it. It's like a trauma. We're never going to eliminate it. We just want to minimize it. In this case, we're not even trying to minimize it. We're trying to reshape it and turn it into positive energy. See, if eliminating it worked, it would already be gone. So the goal is conversion. When a weakness comes under authority, your personal authority, it stops being a liability and starts becoming your leverage. That's what a superpower actually is. So imagine what command would feel like. What would it feel like to have enough control over your mind that nothing inside you runs unchecked? You're not fighting yourself. You're not managing the damage inside of yourself. You're not constantly pulling yourself back on track. What if the same tension that's been slowing you down became the force that moves you powerfully forward? Not because it disappeared, but because it finally had direction controlled by you. What would that feel like? Listen, guys, I'm not trying to give you hyper adrenaline here, but we need to have clarity, control, and confidence. The kind that doesn't need permission, the kind that doesn't need validation. That's not optimism. We are talking about command, dominion over the weakness. But listen, here's what has to come first. Again, I already said it. This isn't about motivation. It's also not about positive thinking, and it's not about fixing the behavior. Those things all come later. This is about that authority. Because if nothing inside you is in charge, everything inside you competes. And competition inside always shows up as inconsistency and chaos on the outside for the people that are watching you, observing you, interacting with you, having relationships with you. So before we talk about tactics, habits, or execution, we need structure. So let's lay it down. Here's the framework we're using. To bring a weakness under command, you need structure. And there are 3 core teaching points I'm going to go through today that you need to understand and apply. They're not steps to rush through, not tactics to try once, but an actual framework that works. And each one builds on the next. Miss one and the whole thing collapses. Get all 3 right, and what's been holding you back starts working for you. So let's start with the first. Here's core teaching point number one. It is a reframe. So let me set this up first. It's a reframe. Before anything changes, the way you see this has to change. Because you don't fix what you mislabel. And most people have mislabeled their weakness for their entire life. So the first step is an action. It's perspective. So our reframe is this. Here's point number one. Your weakness is raw material you can use to build with. Your weakness is raw material you can use to build with. The weakness is not a flaw. You've been looking at it your whole life as this character flaw, this personal flaw, this dark cloud that keeps following you, but your weakness is not a flaw. It's unfinished power. That is your reframe. Remember at the beginning, I said that I'm going to show you a new strength that you can add today. Here's the cool part. You're not just adding a strength. You're ridding yourself of something that was a weakness and turning it into a strength. That, my friends, is power. Every dominant trait in you carries energy. When the energy is undirected, it creates friction. When it's structured, it creates force. And when you shape it, everything around you starts to change. In your marriage, the same trait becomes patience instead of tension, presence instead of withdrawal, leadership instead of reaction. In your business or career, it becomes clarity instead of chaos, decisive action instead of hesitation, and consistency instead of burnout. In how you manage your health, it becomes discipline that holds under pressure, structure instead of extremes, and momentum that actually lasts. And even in your relationship with your creator, what once created distance turns into stewardship, humility, and trust. Guys, it's the same trait. We're spinning it into a different outcome. See, most people feel trapped by their weakness. Of course you do. You haven't managed it. You haven't controlled it. You haven't commanded it. And it's not because that weakness is too strong. It's because it's never been shaped by you. So you suppress it or you let it run wild. But when it comes under command, it stops being something you fight and starts becoming something that works for you. I hope you're getting this. Here's the shift most people never experience. It doesn't get harder, it gets clearer. And it's not heavy, it's just unfamiliar. And once it's shaped, you don't lose who you are, you finally use it. See, unshaped power feels like a problem. Shaped power becomes your advantage. Here's point number two. Elimination, trying to eliminate it, is the wrong strategy. See, you don't become dangerous by removing parts of yourself. You become dangerous by putting them under authority and utilizing the positive momentum that's available from them. And let's just be honest here. If you could have eliminated that stubborn weakness, you would have done it a long time ago. You've tried ignoring it, outgrowing it, replacing it. It didn't leave. It hasn't gone anywhere. And it's not because you failed, but because that doesn't work. It's not how this works. It's not how it's designed to work. This isn't something that disappears. It's something whose energy has to be redirected. When people say that's just how I am, what they're really saying is nothing is in charge of this part of my life, this part of me. And that, my friends, is called surrender. Now, write this one down. What you refuse to command will eventually command you. Here's point number three. Command creates conversion, and conversion creates powerful momentum. So here is the shift. Once you accept that the trait isn't going away and ignoring it is not, it's slowly not only not an option, it's slowly killing you, your focus starts to change. This is where progress happens. The moment a trait comes under command, its function changes. Are you ready for this? Your impatience becomes urgency. Your overthinking becomes strategy. Your intensity becomes leadership. Harnessed intensity or harnessed energy, leadership. Your sensitivity becomes discernment. Oh, and here's a thought. Your confrontation becomes understanding. What would that look like in your marriage, in your relationships, at your work? Are you getting this? Same trait, new powerful role. That's conversion. That's how a weakness becomes a superpower. So look, at this point, the problem should be clear. This isn't about effort. And it's not about hoping the trait disappears, but it's about learning how to change its energy, how to take authority over it instead of negotiating with it. And in a moment, we'll talk about the techniques that make that possible. But let's bring this to a point and zoom out for a second. Here's what we've established. You don't have a personality problem. You don't have a potential problem. And you don't have a motivation problem. You have a command problem. There's a dominant trait in you that never came under authority. So instead of working for you, it's been quietly shaping your outcomes. And in many cases, for years and for decades. And it's time to make it stop. We've talked about why eliminating it doesn't work. We've talked about why avoiding it doesn't help. And we've talked about what happens when that same energy is finally under control. At this point, the issue should be crystal clear in your mind. Your weakness isn't something to fix, it's something to bring under command. And once that happens, everything we talked about, your relationships, your work, your health, your direction, start to move. Now, the only question left is, how does this work? How do you do it? Because it's been following me like a dark cloud for almost my entire life. If it's your biggest weakness, this isn't new to you. It's been there for a long time. So if you're like most people, you're tempted to stop here at awareness. You're now aware. Cool. Don't you dare. You're too close to a breakthrough right now. That can happen right now if you choose it. Awareness is just a doorway. It's not a destination. So this is where most people stall. They see the pattern, they name the weakness, and then they wait. Same thing they've done for years. They wait for motivation, they wait for willpower, they wait for the right moment, and nothing ever changes. Because awareness without structure turns into your frustration. You don't need more insight. You need that control we've been talking about. And control doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from rewiring your identity around it. From what's operating beneath conscious thought, where patterns are formed, where resistance is created, and where habits either stick or they collapse. Guys, this is why I built Sisu Vita. It's not for motivation and it's not for hype. It is a mechanism. It is a tool at your disposal as you want it. And it is designed to help you bring dominant traits under command using a method called identity shifting. Now, there's 6 different methods inside of Sisu Vita, and they're all built and stacked into roadmaps to help you with any challenge you're having in life, to take those weaknesses and turn them into strengths. And it makes discipline automatic instead of forced. So you're no longer negotiating with yourself. You're no longer starting over. You're no longer leaking energy. When identity changes, behavior follows. Let me say that again. When identity changes, behavior follows. Sorry, I'm trying to load something here for you. That's how transformation becomes permanent. Sisu Vita is not coaching. Why can't I get this to go? Give me a second. There we go. All right. Sisu Vita is not coaching. It's not therapy. It's not hypnosis. It's identity transformation rewired at the subconscious level. And it can be done in some cases in as little as one 15-minute session. The best part is you can access unlimited sessions for less than the price of a gym membership. I put it up on the screen. If you're watching this streaming, live streaming, I put up the website and a discount code. For less than the cost of a gym membership, you can completely rewire your mind. Right now, when I take this coupon code down, it's down. Retail for an annual membership is $11.97 a year, which is a steal. Right now, because I just launched a new membership platform, I'm giving you an entire year membership, unlimited access to mind shifting, all the methods, all the roadmaps for $200 for the year, and I'm going to grandfather it in for you. So this is where responsibility lands, and this is where the responsibility shifts to you. This doesn't end with insight, and it doesn't end with clarity. It ends with a decision. If you could truly command your mind, if you could shape your dominant trait instead of avoiding it, then the question becomes unavoidable. What weakness are you done letting drag you down? And what superpower are you going to turn it into? And probably the most important question, when? Because the unstoppable version of you isn't someone you become later. If you are the momentum, everything inside you comes under command. Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul, wake up the warrior. I'll see you guys on Monday.
Stuck in your mind, fighting shadows of a story you left behind.